Yes, it's the first Sunday after Easter. And to me, the reading for this Sunday, I felt, has always been the story of the disciples on the way to Emmaus. So let us reflect on this story. I will read some verses of this lovely, beautiful story. Luke 24. That very day, two of them were going to a village named Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem, and they were talking with each other about all these things that had happened. While they were talking and discussing together, Jesus himself drew near and went with them. But their eyes were kept from recognizing him. And he said to them, "What is this conversation that you are holding with each other as you walk?" And they stood still, looking sad. Then one of them, named Cleopas, answered them, "Are you the only visitor to Jerusalem who does not know the things that had happened in these days?" "What things?" he asked. And then they tell him what had happened in quite a lot of detail. And he continues then to explain scriptures and how it was relevant and showed to him as the Messiah. And then verse 28, as they came near to the village to which they were going, Jesus acted as if he was going further. It's almost a moment of humor in the story. Why does Jesus act? Or did he want them to invite him? But they held him back, saying, "Stay with us. The day is almost over and it's getting dark." So Jesus stayed with them. They had a meal together, and when he broke the bread, their eyes were opened. Their hearts were warmed. They went back to Jerusalem, and they told the other disciples what had happened. And they said, "Were our hearts not burning when he broke the bread?" It's such a beautiful and a well-known story, and I'm sure that you have heard so many sermons on this story. If you're a church goer, you would have heard so many sermons on this story. And I've preached about it so many times, and there are so many things about the journey, about Jesus accompanying them, but they don't recognize him. The beauty of the moment that he breaks the bread. There's something of a suspense in the story. We know that it's Jesus, but they don't know. And you wonder, when will they recognize him? It's just such a beautiful, beautiful story. And when I had decided I will preach about this, I could have used one of my previous or old sermons for this Sunday, but I thought, no, I'll wait, and something will be born within me. And then it happened. On Wednesday evenings, I have a group of young people who come for discussion and sometimes by Bible study. And we read this story, and I asked them, "So what attracts your attention?" And then they said, this thing that the disciples' eyes were closed. They didn't recognize him. And then the conversation continued by them telling how they, as young people, had, for instance, teachers, the one said, and it was not until after school that she realized how much this teacher had meant to her. And that was the moment that I realized that is what is living in my heart. Now, dear friends, this story has been an inspiration for so many um, people, artists. Think about this painting that I showed right at the beginning of the service, which is to me one of the most beautiful, this unrecognized figure that walks with the other two. And then the well-known painting of Rembrandt van Rijn in the Louvre in Paris, at the moment where the two disciples actually recognize Jesus when he breaks the bread. And on the picture you can see how they almost are startled by what they see. And then of course the very well-known hymn, which we made a funeral hymn, Abide with Me. But this comes from these words of the disciples saying, stay with us, abide with me, Lord, while or when eventide falls. Beautiful inspiration. So what triggered me was when the young people spoke about other people in their lives. May I ask you a question? If you were to write down the names of every person that crossed your life, every person that had contributed something towards your upbringing, your growth, your development, how many people would that be? 5? 100? Most probably thousands. But very often, while they are there, we don't realize what they contribute. Amongst them were also people of faith, and they might have shaped and formed your own development and your own way of thinking and your own spiritual growth. But we don't recognize them while they are there. And that to me was the main thing of this story today, or this week, is how many people have added something and almost encouraged me on my faith journey and helped me to grow. Some I wouldn't even remember, but they've been there. And dear friends, in that sense, every one of us become the disciples on the way to Emmaus, with other people joining us, and that way Jesus joining us along our journeys as well, but we don't recognize that. On the other hand, you might have been the one who contributed something towards the growth and the journey of someone else. And my prayer is that that will be true of you, that God, almost disguised, will accompany you, but in the same way you might bring God Himself, the risen Lord, into someone else's life by love, by forgiveness, by bringing a sense of hope. And that is my prayer for you and for all of us today. And with these words, may the Lord bless you and keep you, and may He abide with you.